listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike?
Elmo, you magnificent bastard, I read your book.
I drink your milkshake.
How dare you?
I call that bold talk for a one-eyed fat man.
Fill your hand, you son of a bitch.
Captain.
Captain. Captain.
Captain. Captain. Captain.
Captain.
Captain.
Captain.
Captain.
Captain.
Captain. Captain.
Captain.
Captain.
Captain.
Captain.
Captain.
Captain. Captain.
Captain.
No, not yet. Not yet. Don't pass out on me yet. Of course you realize this means war.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Welcome. Thursday, July 9th, the year of our Lord 2020. It is. Boom! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I'm broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, always spelled with a K, a mere 2 miles east of the locus of evil on the entire left coast of the Bill Mill, the belly of the beast, the Capitol building in downtown Sacramento at 10th and L Streets, where late at night you can hear the death of common sense and its concomitant wail as it wafts from that petrifying edifice. And late at night when I exit the plush, resplendent, sumptuous, palatial, and effulgently bulbous SHR Media studios, I'll be smelling the odoriferous stench of sulfur, brimstone, and evil emanating from that mentally destitute column aforementioned. Hearken to me. What you're about to hear for the next 2 hours consists of my opinion and no one else's, except maybe a couple of other people that are going to be here tonight. Well, you know what? Because of the fear porn that has gripped this nation, the saloon is closed again. But I want to let you know that I am serving stiff drinks out the back door along with facts, history, logic, rationality, proportion, context, tradition, intent, and common sense. And I got to tell you this, we don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the saloon where the speech is free, but the booze is not. In 2020, it's war. I'm done with bipartisanship and compromise. But wait. If you think it's all bad news, with each and every day that comes along, I'm here to tell you, it is not all bad news by any stretch of the imagination. That's what I'm going to talk to you about tonight. Now, originally, and I haven't finished what audio bits and whatnot I want in which order. I was going to talk about the end goal of BLM, Antifa, what all this crap is about on the left. But I decided, because I had been speaking to a couple of people earlier, that I wanted to change up things. And also because a lot of folks, and I have really gotten a whole bunch of new people into both chat rooms and also into the podcasts, courtesy of Jeremy Hansen. Thanks again, Jeremy, for all the people that you have managed to bring over. There are now many more people that are listening to me than they have before. And they may have missed Jack the last time that he was here, when we talked about the Chaz Chop area, as in, well, what are we going to do about it? My take on the Chaz Chop is, you know what? Let him bleed. Let the bodies hit the floor. And Jack's take on that was, you know what? We need to go in and we need to KATN that entire area. It was an interesting discussion, but the reason I wanted to have Jack back tonight is because you haven't heard, for the new folks, and I can see already there are already a bunch of people that are in the chat rooms that haven't really heard Jack before. In SHR chat, welcome to Jack himself. Dave is in chat. Sergeant Booker's in chat. The Alaskan, one viewer, is in chat. And I haven't been able to open up SHR Media chat on Facebook. Let's go there. There I am live. Sarah, welcome to Facebook chat. Thanks for being there. So I'm going to keep that open so I can take a peek at Facebook chat. In any event, Jack has a very interesting story. And for the first hour, we're going to talk to Jack Alexander. For the second hour, Sackhead Shaun is going to be here. Sackhead Shaun is one of the co-owners of SHR, and he, along with Sackhead's Clint, started the whole place. And Shaun has not been around for a while. He'll jump into the second hour occasionally, but I haven't yet really had the opportunity to pre-announce him because he's really busy and sometimes he just kind of shows up. Well, tonight I got an arrangement. I had to go through his attorney, of all people. Okay, Shaun has an attorney. So I had to work the show out through Shaun's attorney. And okay, Jack drives a tough damn contract too, so my attorney had to talk to Jack's attorney. We had to work this out weeks before. And so, courtesy of Jack's mouthpiece, Jack will be here tonight. Well, Jack's going to be talking about a situation that I think is completely applicable to what may occur, but I'll leave that for the second hour. In November, a sort of a cautionary what if you will. Well, let's say. What if Biden wins? Well, it won't be Biden, as everybody knows. He's not here. He's not present and accounted for anybody. 5-year-olds look at Biden on TV and go, he's not with it. Yeah, even they know. So his handlers, his puppet masters, will be telling Biden what to do should Biden win. A cautionary tale has already occurred in Australia, courtesy of an event that occurred, I believe, in 1995 and then rolled over to 1996. So that cautionary tale, Australia is paying a price for. For those people unfamiliar, Jack Alexander has his own radio show. Well, BZ, shut the hell up. Let Jack Alexander talk. Jack, are you there, sir?
Somebody order an ass whooping?
Yes, one each right here on the show.
How you doing, BC?
Real good. Now, for people who may not know, you didn't just come out of nowhere. I meet the coolest people on social media. You and I have not physically met because there's about, 4,000 or 5,000 miles separating the two of us and a 14-hour plane flight minimum, I think. So
yeah, basically we've got a planet for a condom.
Right, yes. Your country is so big, it's its own continent. In any event,
yeah.
Jack is from Australia, and Jack is a conservative. I guess, would I be, I think I'd be appropriate in quantifying you as a conservative, wouldn't I, Jack?
I would. I've had people say that I make Rush Limbaugh look like a limp-wristed liberal.
Okay, Sergeant Booker is in SHR chat and says, Biden is the poster child for the 25th Amendment. Wait a minute, where's this? Yeah, that would be correct. So, Jack, give people who have not heard you before or heard your story, because you have a great story. Tell folks a little bit about you, how you ended up in Australia, why you were born in Czechoslovakia with only one leg and one arm, how you worked tanks, and then how you were born in a log cabin that you helped your father build. Go ahead and take it away, Jack.
Look, I'm a country boy at heart. My father grew up. I grew up around my father in the beef industry, where he was a livestock salesman. So, coming from a rural area and a rural upbringing, those conservative roots are there. I spent 10 years in the Australian military, serving many deployments overseas, mostly in support of U.S. actions. So, myself, I have a very close relationship with the wonderful fighting men and women of the U.S. military. And as I was getting out of the military, I fell into radio. I started doing breakfast comedy radio because
you were hungry and it was breakfast.
Well, yeah, but a lot of my military career was sort of handicapped by the fact that I was probably the Australian version of Bill Murray in Stripes. It probably impeded my promotional prospects because, well, I never knew when to shut the fuck up. So consequently, after 10 years, I'm still a corporal. I was acting sergeant, but it wasn't going to progress anymore. So at the 10-year mark, plus also getting over a nasty training injury where I had 2 helicopters fall on me on a training mission. And it was sort of my time to get out.
Not just one. Folks, there we go. Jack trumping himself. No, he didn't have one helicopter fall on himself. No, perish that damn thought. He's from Australia. Why stop at one when you can have 2 helicopters fall on you? Perfect.
Yeah, it's a good trick when you're in one of them. And look, everyone says that everything's bigger in Texas. No, Australia's still got some cattle ranches that are bigger than the state of Texas. So, and look, I'm an adopted Texan. I actually have property in Texas. So, but no, I got out of as I was getting out of the military. One of the guys under my command in the army, his big brother was the news director at a radio station in Sydney. And through him, I got to meet a wonderful guy by the name of Doug Mulray. Wonderful radio announcer, the sickest sense of humor, and we hit it off. Not unlike the way you and I hit it off right from the start.
Okay.
And I fell into radio. We were doing musical parodies. We were doing political commentary with very sick humor and so on, and it was a great time. But when what's that?
All your exes live in Texas, right?
Oh God, I hope not.
Okay, keep going.
Doug was a wonderful guy to work with. I learned a hell of a lot about the biz, and I love broadcasting. And when that opportunity dried up, when the consolidation of networks started in Australia, it had the same effect in Australia as it did in the United States, where more and more programs came out of just one city and you were getting it networked and everything else was voice-tracked. It really damaged good hosting opportunities in Australia. So I started what was one of Australia's first online radio stations because I loved what I was doing. I loved talking to people. I loved having a wicked sense of humor, and I found out that a lot of the music that I was playing, which was 80s, a lot of stuff that was really popular in the 80s on Australian radio, was resonating in the United States. Little did I know that there was a change in the wind happening in country music in the United States, where this thing called new country was coming along. It was essentially pub rock from Australia back in the 80s.
Huh, okay.
And so instead of getting a predominantly Australian audience, what I was pushing for at the time, because I just started this up to keep my skill set up with the hopes of getting into another radio station in Australia. But because of internet broadcasting, you're not limited by the power of your antenna and the reach of your transmitter and so on. So I started attracting a larger and larger American audience who were, first of all, attracted to the music and somewhat to the comedy. But I went from being in a cast of probably 20 performers that were involved in the Doug Mulray show to a cast of one. I was writing, producing, recording, doing all the show prep for what was then 4 hours of the same sort of breakfast comedy radio that I learned the biz in. And it was killing me. So I had to find something else to do. And more people were beginning to ask me, well, Australia's an ally of America. You fought alongside U.S. troops. What does Australia think of this issue or that issue? And that led to an opening where I became a correspondent for Radio America covering the 2008 presidential election. And what the candidates, what was it, Barack Obama and John McCain, and their policies. What would that mean for America's allies? What would that mean for America's trading partners like Australia? And that opened up a few doors in the United States, and that's where. And since then, I've actually found out that I have family there. My mother is actually a U.S. citizen by birth.
Really?
But yeah.
Okay.
But not that helps my situation because she didn't spend enough time growing up there. In fact, she didn't know that she was a U.S. citizen by birth until well into her 60s. While she did spend some time as a toddler growing up there, she had no memory of it. And it wasn't till her adopted father passed away that skeleton fell out of the closet. So, it's probably why I've always had this, I want to call it a genetic association with the United States. It's always felt more like home than Australia has. I mean, as much as I despise entering the US through LAX or San Francisco.
Because who doesn't?
At least when at least when I get there and even when I present my Australian passport at immigration there, I feel like I've come home. And I've always felt that. And, that's why I've tried for more than 25 years to actually, and in big air quotes here, legally immigrate to the United States. But, thanks to illegal immigration, they keep moving the damn goalposts.
Yeah, thanks, Barack Hussein Obama, for the prior 8 years, etc.
It's not just Barack Obama.
But it was before that. Yeah, I grok the concept. It was definitely before that. Tonight with Jack. And by the way, I think you already knew this, but in case you didn't, I'll throw it out there. When Sean gets here in the second hour, you're welcome to stay as long as you like. Or if you have to go, that's cool too. But you are welcome for the entire shindig.
There's nowhere to go.
Okay,
for me, there's nowhere to go at the moment.
I don't know. I thought Australia was really a big place. But if you don't have any other place to go, that's cool too. Speaking of hunting, why don't we talk about hunting here for just a minute? Oh, wait a minute! Damn it! Okay, this is why BZ needs a producer, because I need to do this and this. And this. Okay, now let's talk about hunting. Good God, BZ.
What are you doing?
I'm hunting.
Who are you hunting?
I'm hunting Antifas.
What the hell is Antifa?
Oh, they're these small, hairy little rodents. You usually find them living in the burrows of gamma rats. The males are little scrawny things, and the most unusual thing about them is they have no testicles. The females, they're about twice the size of the males. Usually they have orange or blue hair, and their mouth is almost as big as their ass. They're generally found in the city, but they've been wandering out into the suburbs in the country now.
What are you using for bait?
Oh, I use a decoy to bring them in.
What kind of decoy?
Right there.
What you can't see is that's the American flag. This is also, I discovered, this is hot off the press. I found a New York officer who is, he's actually an NYPD officer, and he tells me this is how NYPD is going these days.
So I've been studying these tactical videos they got me watching, and here we go. I'm ready. Hi, I'm Officer Chris O'Hanahee, and I'm here with NYPD, and I would like to go through a consistent tactical video with you guys. When approaching the suspect, make sure that you're in a comfortable body state. Let me show you mine. Hold on.
He has a partner.
There we go. Hold on. If you can't get your leg up over your thigh, it's okay to leave it perpendicular to the other leg. Maybe like beach pose. Here you go. All right. Make sure a firearm is not facing the subject. You do not want to scare them. And let me begin. Hello, sir. You are under arrest. Oh, know what? Maybe we're just detaining you. We're not sure. And yes, we understand that you just shot at those people over there and that you're not holding the firearm, so that's fine. But you did strike 2 of them. So what we're going to need you to do is lay down on the ground. Me and my counterpart here, who will remain off camera, are going to just approach you, touch your shoulder, and hopefully slide your arm to the back. But it's a little uncomfortable. All right, sorry. We'll use several cuffs just to make sure that your arms stay in whatever position you want them to be. But you need to lay down on the ground. What? Oh, yeah, I need to call for additional? Yes. So let me get another additional unit over here to come talk with this guy with me. Bring a mat. Yeah. What? No, we don't have the mats. Bring the mats. Sir, we need...
See, perfect.
Oh, the ground is too hard? Don't worry, we got the mats coming for you. Excuse me? Yes, sir. Okay, fine. So anyway, you may not be under arrest. I'm not sure. I have a supervisor coming who's going to supervise me, and he'll be supervised by a supervisor who's supervising a supervisor, and we're just all going to sit here and watch you tell us what to do. Yes. So, what's your name? Suck your dick. That's, yeah. There's a lot of people out here with that name.
That was... That's an update from a NYPD officer as to how they're handling people on the street these days. If you call NYPD or you call any other police agency right now because of various concerns, this is something similar to what you may hear.
911, what is your emergency?
I need help. There's some people outside. I think they're trying to break into my garage.
They're breaking into your home right now.
Yeah. Can you send some police?
What kind of police?
What do you mean, what kind of police?
Due to recent policy changes regarding police brutality, we need to ensure that the officers we send out are guaranteed to not be viewed as racist, trigger-happy, discriminatory in the event of a violent confrontation. So,
can you just send someone to help? I don't know what these people want. My family is here and...
What's wrong with that guy?
Oh, my God. They just got into the garage. Please send some help.
In order to send help, I need to know what race the perpetrators are, their age, their sexual orientation, what gender they are. Do they have a criminal record? Are they on drugs? If they are armed, and if so, what are they armed with?
I don't care about any of that. Send help now!
Sir, we cannot send white officers out there if the perpetrators breaking into your home are non-Caucasian. I can't send officers out there with guns if the alleged burglars are not armed. So, I need to know. Sir? Sir? 911, what is your emergency?
Things may not end well for people these days. Well, let's talk about the big issue tonight, Jack Alexander. And the big issue tonight is, and it'll be interesting to see who listens, because I hit up some groups that are great Second Amendment advocates today. I think Australia exists as a wonderful cautionary tale of what other countries should not do. Now, there are those of us who have heard that, if you listen to the mainstream media, what I call the American media maggots, all that they have to say about Australia is, that's not right. What happened is that crime plummeted in Australia. Crime plummeted, and it's never come back. Australia has never been safer. They've confiscated I guess they called it a buyback. Damn me for saying that it's a gun confiscation. It was a buyback. But Australia has never been safer or better or stronger or ever greater. But I can remember distinctly having spoken to you before, Jack Alexander, and because I know you live there, things weren't exactly like that. So what I'd like you to do is, let's see, I got 4 more minutes before the bottom of the hour break. I'd like to start with this, hit the break, and then continue with what happened in Australia and why it's a cautionary tale. But this began, Jack Alexander, with an event and then skyrocketed from there. Can you give us some history as to what happened, Jack Alexander?
There was 3 shootings in a short period of time. We had the Hoddle Street Massacre here in Melbourne, where someone shot up a train station or sniped a train station while sitting in a public park. There, also in Melbourne, there was a gunman that walked into the call centre of the government-run telephone company and shot up that. But the big one that changed everything was the Port Arthur massacre on the island of Tasmania, where a nut job was at a gun show in another state and bought firearms and took them back to Tasmania and shot up this historical area. The weapons that he bought were turned in by law-abiding citizens trying to obey the law in the state of Victoria, where I am, when they said that you can't have assault weapons, and I'm using the big air quotes for that.
Right.
Basically, if it was capable of semi-automatic fire and above .22 caliber, then it was an assault weapon in their eyes, and you weren't allowed to have it. And so the law-abiding sheep turned over en masse all of their guns to Victoria Police, who then packed them up into a bunch of rental trucks, drove over to the next state to a gun show in the state capital, and sold them for personal profit, for profit of the Victoria Police Department.
Curiouser and curiouser.
And the guy responsible for all this bought an AR-15 and a semi-automatic shotgun and a couple of handguns that were turned in and killed a bunch of people. But, of course, they didn't blame Martin Bryant, the shooter, in all of this. They didn't blame the Victoria Police Department, who through a change in state law, made profit for the government by taking them interstate. No. They blamed the poor gun owner. And, and to the point that it became a national issue where, unlike in the United States where state governments collect state taxes, in Australia, the federal government, through the Australian Tax Office, is responsible for collecting all state and federal taxes and then distributing the state money back to the states. Well, the Howard administration, John Howard was the Prime Minister at the time, basically held all of those state taxes over the heads of the states if they didn't sign on to the new gun control laws. So, it basically backed up a lot of states to the point where, they couldn't afford to fund schools or hospitals or other programs because they were needed all of those state taxes that are being collected. And the federal government said, until you capitulate to the gun control measures that we want, you don't get your money.
Okay, can we stop there? I'm going to have to take a break. We're breaking where Jack Alexander says that the state is, it sounds like he's going somewhere similar to the state is going to withhold money for those people that don't comply. Folks, does that sound a little bit similar to you in some fashion? Just a foreshadowing of what might be to come under a Joe Biden administration. We'll be right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunetz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunetz.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Shannon Wright of The Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Mike's not here, so I gotta talk fast. You gotta join us. Fall season. Getting ready to start up with a whole bunch of new stuff. News and food and politics and sports and entertainment and a whole bunch of stuff. But wait, Mike's coming. I gotta go. Remember, Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. Make sure you tune in.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America, one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch.
He does.
The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found, like Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. The Jack Alexander Experiment, because it's not a matter of left versus right, it's a matter of right versus wrong.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Featuring the effervescent contrarian sackheads Clint plus the unrestrained bulbosity of BZ, the Sackheads Against Tyranny is a real chat show. Doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts, you can listen every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Please note, some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC, batteries not included, warranty voided Montenegro.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we are back. I am BZ, the bloviating Zeppelin. You are in the Saloon tonight. It is Thursday, July 9th, year of our Lord 2020. In the first hour, I'm talking to Jack Alexander of the Jack Alexander Experiment. And I am having him here tonight so that he can tell us about the cautionary tale that is Australia, the gun laws of Australia. And the reason I wanted Jack here is as a reminder that, make no mistake, none whatsoever, this is exactly what the Democrats have in mind for you. Should something as stupid as Joe Biden, an individual as Alzheimer's ridden as Joe Biden, because he won't be pulling the strings, his handlers will be pulling the strings, which means people that are immensely more left than he ever was. This is what they have in mind for you. And they have made no mistake whatsoever. It used to be that these things were couched in terms of, look, we're not here for gun confiscation. All we want are reasonable gun laws. Now the gloves are off. Fuck it. We're here to steal and take your guns. Now in Australia, they called it a buyback. It was a buyback. But I can remember, Jack Alexander, I saw pieces of media that said essentially, sell us your guns or we're going to put you in prison. Wasn't it kind of similar to that, Jack Alexander?
It wasn't kind of similar. That was the direct threat that I got. And even then, when they started the buyback, they said, oh, look, we will buy them back at market rates. And then they realized that, oh, crap, this is going to bankrupt the nation. And then they decided that the market rate for your firearms was the scrap metal value. And when that happened, people started saying, well, no, screw you. I will look at exporting them outside of the country, which is something that I wanted to do with my large collection. And so then they started changing the law that once you take your rifles in to get a quote, once you've entered the buyback station, that it is then a felony to take them out of there again. So even if you just went in to say, okay, look, this gun might not have been on the buyback thing. You know, it might have been an old, single shot bolt action 22, but that your great grandfather had. And once you took that into that buyback center, it was then a felony to take it back out of there.
Well, of course. Why not? Why wouldn't it be?
Yeah. So, and anyone that tried to export their guns, and I'd found a buyer in the United States who had a firearms museum in Florida who was more than happy to pay me more than what they were worth. And could deal with the U.S. government to get special permits because some of the things that had at the times would have been outside of the assault weapons import ban. Thank you, Bill Clinton. But it was still, that because they were a museum and it was for educational purposes and so on, they had a very good firearms lawyer that could get them the permits to bring them in. Even though the Australian government would have made more out of me in taxes, levies, permits, and tariffs, had they have allowed me to sell them, they would have left the country, which still would have honoured the new law. No. And in the end, I was backed into a corner looking at jail time with a new family and a baby, if I didn't sell my firearms to the government.
And I don't want
in
you
the
to...
end, in the end, they gave me only 10% of their insured value.
I don't want you to tell me what they were, but my understanding is that you had some very rare firearms as well.
I had a complete. I don't mind telling you some of the stuff that I had in there. I had a complete set of prototype builds of the M1 Garand. In the early stages of the M1 Garand's development, they were playing around with different calibers. Was 30-06 still a good caliber to use? Were they going to try something else? And there was about half a dozen different calibers that the M1 Garand was made in. They made runs of 50 of them. And I had all 6 of them.
That, for anybody that's listening that's a firearms devotee, that hurts me right here. That hurts me to my very quick to know that something like that, where a series of things like that just went away, got melted for the metal, and you got a fraction of the price, an infinitesimal fraction of the price of their true worth, because essentially a lot of those were just one-offs.
Yeah, basically. And yeah, I also had a historic Lee Enfield 303 that I traced back to the Boer War. Now, most Americans wouldn't be familiar with the Boer War in South Africa with the British and the local colonist communities there, but it was an important part in the formation of the Australian military. And one of the Lee Enfields that I had, I traced back to the very unit of the Bushveld Carbineers, which were mostly colonists from Australia who volunteered to go and fight there. And their commanding officers were, 2 of them were executed on war crimes, basically just by the British to bring about peace talks. They were given an illegal order by a British general, and then when it all went tits up, they shot by firing squad 2 Australian military officers and jailed another one for life to bring about peace talks. And I had a rifle. I couldn't trace it back to any of the 3 officers involved, but I had traced it to that particular unit. And again, that was another one of these rare guns that was cut up. It's a piece of Australian military history, but also a piece of Australian history in general.
Something that leftists are certainly, they don't give a crap about history. Certainly that's been proven. Before we left on the break, what you were saying is that because of taxes, there was a way that the state had of forcing, the state, I'm meaning Australia, had a way of forcing the other states and territories of Australia to comply with the gun law. How was that?
Yeah, well, because the Australian Tax Office is responsible for collecting all taxes, including those imposed by the state, individual states. So, hypothetically, in this case, if the United States was Australia, the tax office, the Federal Taxation Office, would be responsible for collecting the state taxes imposed by Texas or California or what have you. And they use that as a bullying chip, not a bargaining chip, but a bullying chip to force states to comply. And it really did put a lot of the more agricultural states like Queensland, the Northern Territory, and Western Australia, which landmass-wise makes up 2/3 of the country. It held them over a barrel, so schools wouldn't get funded. The public hospital system wasn't going to get funded. Roads weren't going to get funded. Other infrastructure projects weren't going to get funded unless those states came on board with those gun control measures.
Well, apparently, Jack Alexander, what you didn't have were a series of federal courts that said, oh, the states can't do that. You can't withhold funds like they're saying here in the United States. So apparently it's pretty clear the courts didn't get involved in any of that.
Oh, the courts did get involved.
Oh, they did?
But
okay.
The federal government drove a ton of gun rights groups and individuals, including myself, to the point of bankruptcy, just delaying or putting other stuff onto it. I mean, the only reason I wound up turning the guns over was because I'd been pushed to the point of bankruptcy. I had a young family. I needed to keep a roof over their head, and at some point you've got to turn around and say, what's more important? Admittedly, in hindsight, I think I chose the wrong decision. But hindsight's always 20/20. I should have maybe pushed it a little bit further, but that's the brakes. But they, the Sporting Shooters Association of Australia was pushed to the point of bankruptcy. The Australian equivalent of the NRA no longer exists. It was pushed to the point of bankruptcy. Many of the agricultural alliances, like the farmers' associations and so on, who were arguing that farmers should be allowed to keep a hold of a Ruger 1022 for the purposes of varmint control.
Right.
We're talking about a Ruger 1022. We're not talking about an AR-15, but a Ruger 1022. No, that's semi-automatic. That's an assault rifle. If it's got a detachable box magazine and will self-load, that's an assault rifle. I mean, they took Dianne Feinstein's playbook and gave it steroids. A crossbow under the Australian Firearms Act, because it uses spring action, is classified as a firearm.
Okay, stop right there. Stop right there just for a second. This is the point that you made before. People, if you haven't heard this is the time in the show, listening to Jack, where you need to focus like a laser beam. Australia learned from the United States leftists. United States leftists are learning from Australia, but it didn't just stop at firearms. Australia is a massive country. It is a continent unto itself, and yet your means... There isn't anything... I said this to Jack Alexander a couple of days ago in jest on Messenger. There isn't any fucking thing in Australia that doesn't want to kill you or eat you. And yet, Australia has decided that it's a wonderful thing to just take everyone's firearms. But wait, this is the part that I want you to listen to, because Jack is going to tell you the crux of the biscuit. This is the meat of the thing. It didn't just stop with firearms. Oh no, Jack, take it away.
Well, it was how they loosely defined what a firearm is. There are people in Australia now with felony firearms convictions for owning an unlicensed Daisy Red Ryder pellet gun.
Process that, folks. Process that. Process what Jack has just said. Number one, Jack just talked about a crossbow. You can't have a crossbow in Australia. You can't have a Daisy rifle. What we used to give kids as presents in the 50s and 60s, you can't do that either. But wait, Jack, there's more, isn't there?
Oh yeah. That they made it so loose. It's not just using modern gunpowder, black powder. If it uses a spring to compress air, if it uses pre-charged compressed air. As I said, the crossbow was there because it gets shouldered like a rifle and uses spring tension, like your old break-action pellet guns, to fire a projectile. But they then deliberately worded out and put an exemption in for your standard archery sort of gear. Crossbows, no, bad. Standard archery for competition purposes, yeah, that's okay. We'll put an exemption in for that, because at the time Australia was actually doing half good in the Olympics in the archery arena. Oh, we can't make it illegal, for that. Mind you, Michael Diamond was a gold medalist trap and skeet shooter in the Olympics, but He no longer competes because, well, you know, he couldn't have some of his guns, or he couldn't buy ammunition as freely as he needed to maintain his practice. To purchase, while we're talking about ammunition, let's talk about the process of purchasing ammunition. To purchase just a box of 20 rounds, you have to go and pay a permit fee at only certain police stations will do this. In my area, I've got to drive a 100-kilometer, so what's that, roughly 75-mile round trip to go to the appropriate police station in my area to get a permission slip, which I need to, you'll pay a fee to ask permission from the state to purchase ammunition, and you need to justify the purposes of buying the amount of ammunition that you are buying. And there are severe limits. Now, if you happen to have a pellet gun, and let's face it, when you buy pellet gun ammunition, you usually get that in like 500 pellets to a container. No. Maximum amount of pellet ammunition, BB pellets that you can purchase for pellet guns in Australia is 50 rounds, and they charge you a premium. A 20-round brick of 223 ammunition, and there's a store in my little town here that's still licensed to sell ammunition. $75 for 20 rounds of 223.
Okay, stop just for a second.
That's
back
on
up.
top of the $50 fee to apply to the state to get permission to get it.
Okay, back up. Say that again. Jack Alexander, for people who were too momentarily stunned, like they got hit in the head with a ball-peen hammer when you said what you said, say that again about the cash, Jack.
Okay. To buy ammunition, you need to shell out a $50 application fee to get permission from the state.
Jesus.
To buy a box of 20 rounds of 223 ammo.
Right.
$75 in my local outdoor store, which is licensed to sell ammunition. And you still have to wait 30 days before you can take it home.
Because why wouldn't you? Jeez. Okay, so no crossbows, no pellet guns, no air rifles. You can have a regular bow, I think. Now, that brings up another question. On a bow, not a crossbow, but on a bow, if you're into archery, for example, is there a registration or a certification required, or a license or a fee tacked onto that to have a bow if you enjoy archery?
You have to be a member of an archery or bow hunting club.
Of course, because why wouldn't you have to be?
Yeah.
But as I recall, speaking to you last time, Jack Alexander, there was more, wasn't there?
Well, the police don't like you having guns.
Well, for example,
And
let me mention, was there something about a wrist rocket that I recall?
A wrist rocket?
Do you know what a wrist rocket is?
No.
Okay. Gosh, what's another word for? This fails me. A slingshot.
No. You cannot have that. They were outlawed even before the 96 ban.
Okay, so that means that the ball bearings that go into the wrist rockets, those are proscribed as well, I'm sure, right?
Yep.
Yeah. No wrist rocket, because you might hurt somebody.
I mean, the brother of a friend of mine had a large paintball operation.
Oh.
And when the laws changed, he went to his local firearms officer at Victoria Police. Said, "Look, I have this business here. I have 328 of these things that you're are now saying will be firearms. Oh, no, you should be fine. 6 weeks later, he gets raided and is charged with 328 felony charges of being in possession of 328 unregistered firearms.
Right, because there's one count per firearm, so why wouldn't there be 328 when the government that you trust already said that paintball thing, because you guys are just you're just out there having fun with compressed air and things that go splat in the night, so have your fun until you get arrested.
Yeah. Thankfully, though, the judge there, who was fired shortly after this case, he said, look, hang on. The defendant in this case has tried to make every reasonable attempt to get clarification. Thankfully, he didn't wind up with a criminal conviction, but he had to forfeit essentially his business.
Okay, but it didn't stop there. Now, let me see if I'm remembering right. And you need to correct me because I may misremember things. We got about 6 more minutes before the top of the hour. But I think there was another class of terrible weapons that were outlawed and proscribed behind all of this, and you could use it in the water. Wasn't there something associated with that as well?
You're talking about spear guns. Only the powerheads were outlawed.
Okay.
You can still hunt with a spear gun, spear fishing, and so on. Okay. But the putting the powerhead on where you put a shot shell or a rifle cartridge onto the tip. No, that's verboten.
Okay, but you can have a big rubber band. You can still have the big tube rubber band thingy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because in
that case you can. That was one of those few exemptions they put in because most Australians live on the coast and are go fishing and stuff on the weekend, and a lot of people do come to Australia to go spearfishing on the Barrier Reef. That would have killed too much of the tourism trade, and back then they had an immigration tax for entry and exiting the country as well. So they didn't want to piss away that money.
Well, yeah, I mean, for sure. Let me go this. Oh gosh, what have we got for time? Okay, we got 2 more minutes before the top of the hour break. We're not going to cover it in this hour because there's not going to be enough time. I can see that right now. But when we come back, what I'd like Jack to do, and then I believe Sean is going to be here. What I'd like Jack to do is tell us what occurred with regard to the laws. Now, I'm sorry, it's not a confiscation. Damn me for saying that. The buyback, if you're on video, these are air quotes, the buyback at a fraction of the price. Everything was all melted down anyway. Because all the leftists say that made Australia a crime-free nation. All you have to do is ask the leftists, or go to Wikipedia, or go to Google. Because the other thing is, if you try to find the true facts about Australia, Google won't let you do that anymore. So after the break, when we come back, Sackhead Sean is going to be here. Jack is still going to be here. I want to ask Jack about not what people said happened in Australia, because they weren't there. But I want Jack Alexander to tell us exactly what did happen in Australia, because, as we all know, crime plummeted after this. Didn't it, Jack? I'm sure it did. We'll be right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Southern Sense is conservative talk with Annie, the radio chick you bellows as host, and C.S. Bennett co-host. Informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey. Annie is a top conservative host on Top Talk Radio and features some of the finest guests packed with important politicians and newsmakers. Listen every Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 Pacific, on the SHR Media Network. Remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York. The Lid himself, Jeff Dunnett. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunnett.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Good evening. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show is featured on the SHR Media Network every Tuesday and Thursday night for 2 hours at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific. Whilst manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ continues to radically change the world of leftists, one diaper at a time. Stop balancing your checkbooks. Stop cleaning your fish tanks. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show is your magnet for truth, justice, obesity, a darkened studio, and late-night freedom. No United States of America freedoms were abridged in the making of this ad.
This is Shannon Wright.
And this is Michael Wright.
Reminding you to listen
to The Right Way with Shannon and Mike.
Every Monday through Thursday.
7 to 9 a.m.
Right here on SHRmedia.com.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch. The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found, like Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. The Jack Alexander Experiment, because it's not a matter of left versus right, it's a matter of right versus wrong.
After 6 years covering terror and corruption, the unpleasant blind guy is making a change. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker and YouTube through SHR Media and on the Western Free Radio Network as I team up with Jeff Mitchell, host of the English Defense League radio show on blogtalkradio.com. Check show pages for airtimes. It's the Unpleasant Blind Guy.
On EDL Radio.
There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Featuring the effervescent contrarian, Sackheads Clint, plus the unrestrained bulbosity of BZ, the Sackheads Against Tyranny is a real chat show. Doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts, you can listen every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Please note, some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC, batteries not included, warranty void in Montenegro.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we are back in more ways than one. It's the second hour of BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. And if you're watching YouTube, okay, if you're watching Facebook, you're going to have to start it up again. Just hit refresh. Facebook will come back. If you're watching YouTube, hit refresh. YouTube should come back as well. So during the break, I had to restart both so that we could see if the streaming is working. So if you're looking at Facebook, start it again. You'll be fine. If you're looking at YouTube, I'd like to find out if YouTube started back, and you can see it on the SHR Media site. Jack Alexander is here. Sackhead Sean is here. Sackhead Sean. Now, for the people that happen to be watching, this is a visual because we turned the lights on, and I initially had the lights off, and this is Sean Cam.
Yes, exactly as I should be.
So now all you see are the eyes of Sauron, the eyes of Sean.
The eyes of shame. I mean,
Sean. I thought it was funny because, and then I thought, okay, turn all the lights back on again. Then I thought, well, wait a minute.
Let's just leave it that way.
Maybe Sean wants to be mysterious and shit.
Well, and your exact words were, I think you look better with the lights off.
And my exact words were, it just really looks
if I had a dollar
very
for
mysterious.
If I had a dollar for every time I was told I look better with the lights off.
Okay, so welcome, Jack Alexander. You're still there, right?
Yep, I'm still here.
Okay. So
wait, the Aussies here?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
I've had
You
Jack
didn't
for the
tell me
first
that.
hour.
I don't know.
So what happened
I
is
don't know if I can do this now.
Yeah, I'm sure you can. Hey, I forgot to mention to everybody, since we're on Facebook, if you guys like the Second Amendment and you're on Facebook, go to the USGOA. That's the U.S. Gun Owners Association. I have a relationship with the USGOA. The guy that runs it is a good friend of mine. If you want to find out about firearms, I know, from afar, though. He's in Texas. I'm here in California. I'll spell it with a K. And he's got a great site about firearms, reviews, story, the Second Amendment, and what is that you are drinking right now? Sackhead Sean. We can't see it. We can't see it because you're holding it up in the light.
Redemption Bourbon.
Redemption Bourbon. Oh, can you show people the side of the glass, because there's something unusual about the side of the glass.
This was a gift. It's a bullet glass. There's actually a .40 caliber bullet that is pushed into the glass as they make it, and it gets held in place by the glass. And and it's called Bullet Glass. It's on Amazon. You can custom order rounds if they don't have the ones you want. Not paid, not promoted by them. Just it was a gift I got. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world, and
Well, and I do too, because you're knocking down bourbon.
Well, absolutely.
And there ain't nothing wrong with people that knock down bourbon.
Nope.
On this show.
I try to knock down as much as I possibly can.
Jack Alexander, let's go back to you. We're talking about the Australia's 1996 gun confiscation. If you read leftist junk, what it says is that, they worked fabulously. It was so wonderful. Except, I guess it wasn't the great panacea, Jack Alexander, that it was hoped to be. How about a real-world view from you, sir?
Gun crime jumped up, or violent crime in general, not just that with regards to firearms, but violent crime in general jumped up so much. To keep the narrative going, they started reclassifying violent crimes, right down to a point where an acquaintance of mine was raped in her own home by the drug addict from over the fence. And, okay, no firearms are involved, but when it got to court, they caught the guy and so on, got to court, and he wasn't charged with the rape and the sexual assault, just the break and enter. And there was a whole lot of these reclassifications to make it look like that it was working. They didn't. Shortly after the gun bans went in, a lot of organised crime decided that they were going to go to war in Melbourne in what was known as the Lygon Street massacres. And you had crime bosses that were having dinner at an alfresco restaurant in the Italian part of town, and somebody would just walk up to an opposing crime boss and double tap him between the eyes and get back into their vehicle and just drive away. And this went on for weeks. And they're still investigating a lot of it. They caught some of them. They didn't catch a lot of them. Just a couple of years ago, the Australian Federal Police finally had to come clean that their narrative wasn't working when they busted an Islamic terrorism cell who were bringing in Glock pistols. Some of them were the fully automatic variety, which have never been illegal. They've never, ever been legal in Australia. And they had to come clean that 20,000 of these illegal pistols, some were between 1,200 and 2,000 of them with a fully automatic variety, had made their way into Australia thanks to the wonderful German efficiency or Austrian efficiency when it comes to records keeping, to an Islamic terrorism cell. The Australian government has only ever found 1,500 of these illegally smuggled weapons.
Unbelievable.
The bike, there's a long-running bikey feud between a couple of the 1%er gangs. Hell's Angels, the Desperados, and there's another, Banditos.
Yeah, I was going to say, you guys, I know you guys have the Banditos.
The Banditos are big. Now, the Hell's Angels aren't so big in Australia, are they, or are they?
I'm about 20 miles away from their national headquarters.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay. Lucky you. Can you get a good deal on a trashed bike with a trashed Harley with a lot of bullet holes in it?
I tend to stay away from them. I love riding, but I had a nasty wreck a couple of years ago. Doing 60 mile an hour, I hit a kangaroo and went over the handlebars, and I haven't had the courage to get on another bike.
Well, that might be the most Australian story ever.
No kidding.
Ever. I don't know how else you'd beat that.
Broke my wrist, ruptured my appendix, and I had gravel rash for months in places you never want to get road rash.
Or gravel.
Man, these Aussies whine, huh? They're really whiny.
I know. It's really sad. You didn't expect that from a guy like
I
Jack,
know, right?
did you?
Right?
You expected a lot better out of this guy.
Pampered
These guys
people
are used to getting they chew king cobras for lunch.
Well, listen, you're literally, you're an island started of criminals. We figured you'd be a lot tougher than this. All joking aside, Jack, obviously. If I recall, Jack, over the first 5 years of the gun ban, which there are, what?
Still looking at you.
Oh, my photo. The first year of the gun ban, crime, the first year was like a violent crime, was like a 15% jump. And then they, like you said, they started to cook books, which is they're doing here too, especially in California.
Exactly.
They're taking felonies and they're breaking them down by the different prongs that equal the felony. So
Prop 47 and Prop 57 basically took
good example
crimes that were felonies, including assault with a firearm and rape, down to misdemeanors.
But they've even doing it outside of that. So one of the things they do is in Sacramento County, if you walked into a business and you attempted to shoplift and the owner or employee tried to stop you and you fought them, that turns into an unarmed robbery under 211, the California Penal Code, right? But what they've done in Sacramento County is they charged you separately with the shoplifting attempt and the assault.
And guess what you do? I know.
What?
You plead to the shoplift.
Yep.
And then the bigger one goes away.
Yep.
Imagine that.
So they've already started that here. But I know in Australia, within like the first 5 years, it went up like 15% for just the violent crime section. And then people got wise, scumbags, as they do, of like, hey, nobody has guns. And you had a huge influx of home invasion and burglaries, if I read that correctly a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, even still so now. And as time's gone on, they've gotten more and more violent as well, because we've had a certain ethnic persuasion be allowed to immigrate quite freely into the country, and they've brought a lot of that mentality with them, and it's getting more and more violent. And between the street gangs, when they stopped being able to carry guns, they started carrying katanas and machetes and so on.
As you do.
And as you do, and they went from that. So they cracked down on that. So then they started carrying home kitchen, butcher knives and so on.
As you do.
Why wouldn't you?
And so they started. They cracked down on that. So then, to make things a little bit more concealable, they started getting up with sharpening stones, and the old butter knife started being used. So they started installing metal detectors at public transit stations. Well, they got wise to that. Most of these people had been in jail at least once or twice, so they started making the plastic cutlery prison shank to get around the metal detectors. Now, if I go to my local IGA to buy a set of barbecue cutlery, plastic disposable cutlery, I have to show my damn driver's license to prove that I'm over 18.
This is why I wanted Jack to be here tonight, folks, for you to listen to what's occurring in Australia. When you don't put the brakes on a system or a state, this is what you get. The biggest difference that I hope is going to make every difference in the U.S. is this: our Bill of Rights, our U.S. Constitution.
Yes. Abso-friggin-lutely. Ring that bell again.
Hey, this is the first time somebody's told me to ring the bell, and you know what? I'm going to.
There it is.
Because that's the point of it all.
Hey, Jack. How many more years of capitulation to the left and the moderates do you think Australia has before, and I know we're going to get into talking about the grip that's on this country and how I think it's going to push us way right soon, before you start getting back to right and they start talking about actually firearm rights again, and that sort of possibility?
It will never get to that point.
Really?
It is. Yeah. I mean, our most conservative major political party is called the Liberal Party. So if the Conservatives are the Liberals, how far to the left do you think the rest of them are?
Communists.
Put it this way. There's a running joke in stand-up comedian circles around here that the Australian government is run by the Kama Sutra of politics. It doesn't matter what position you're in, you are getting fucked up the ass.
I saw that coming before the punchline even hit. And I even added a joke onto that. So here we talk a lot about the silent majority, and we're going to probably talk about this after the break leading into the next election. How big is the silent majority there, Jack? And is there a way to organize that and start to... Because, look, I've met enough Aussies to know that by and large, reasonable people. And is there a lot of maybe like splinter groups? I hate to say that and make it sound trashy, but splinter conservative groups who are starting to lean more right, who maybe you can start organizing and win like a local election and maybe start to build it out?
With the exception of the Australian Shooters Party, which came out of the remnants of the Australian equivalent of the NRA when they were driven into bankruptcy by trying to fight the 96 gun laws.
Right.
No.
Okay.
Even the more conservative, smaller parties are not interested in firearms rights.
And I'm asking for a reason. I kind of figured that was the case, but as a lesson to the people in this country, that once it goes away, there is no way it's going to come back the same way it was.
And again, that's part of the cautionary tale out of all of this.
See, here's the big thing. Here's the big thing, Sean, and it comes down to what was mentioned before when it comes to the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. The American Constitution lay out the rights that the people have and puts it into a documentary form. The Australian Constitution starts off with saying that these privileges are afforded to the citizenship by the Crown. Not rights.
Right.
Privileges.
Yep. And it's not from God.
So
they're not natural law. It's from the Crown.
We've never had the right to keep and bear arms. We've never had the right to free speech. We've never had the right to a free press. I mean, the leftists in colleges and so on will teach them that they are rights. But, I mean, we regularly get journalists that are arrested, news agencies raided. I mean, that happened, a big prominent case of that happened last year when the government, the federal police decided they were going to crack down on a couple of investigative journalists who were getting a little bit too close to the truth.
That's insane.
On what?
What was it about? It was about terrorism.
Oh, you mean the people that those in Europe and specifically the UK call Asians?
We've never called them Asian. In England, yes, that is a term, but we've never called them that here. But yes, the religion of peace.
I think it's funny that back in early June during some of the protests, there was 2 Australian journalists that were pushed by U.S. law enforcement that were covering the journalist things. They called it an attack in the news, but they were moved out of the way and pushed, and because they were getting in the way between the police doing their job. And your prime minister came and demanded an investigation. And it kills me because it's like, hey, we didn't arrest him. We just moved him out of the way. You guys arrest him for reporting the truth. And I bring this cautionary tale up because a lot of people, if they don't know the history between Australia and America, we're very much like brothers and sisters. We both came from the Crown.
Yeah.
We both, in different ways, got our liberty from the Crown. But you guys are more like that, hippie uncle that keeps letting all these people crash at his house and they steal all of his crap, and he's like, "No, it's okay. They didn't mean it."
Dude, those brown snakes were not all that bad. They only bit me and killed one of my children. I have 2 more. Damn it!
In America's by and large is more of like the fences around the house. Like, you can come in, but don't touch shit, or we'll kick your ass. And this is my space, not yours. And I try to tell everyone that because we did come to existence very much the same. You guys had, what was it? The Ostrich War that you lost. But other than that,
the Ostrich War.
Jack, am I wrong?
I'm trying to think. What was the Ostrich War?
Yeah, what I want to know that too. What was the Ostrich War?
Was it the Emu War? It was in the 1930s where they were having an influx of one of the big birds.
Is that like cockfighting? Only
no,
like cocks on steroids.
It was.
These cocks are 6 fucking feet tall, dude.
Nope. It was. Oh gosh, I want to say it was in the 20s or 30s. They were having a problem with one of the birds that they imported. It was either emus or ostriches, and they sent a military brigade out to kind of level them. They were out in the bush somewhere. I don't know exactly where. And the birds wouldn't die, and they kept attacking the soldiers who were sent to put them down. And it was called the...
I have not heard of that, and I'm laughing my ass off.
Okay, here it is.
This is an Australian that hasn't heard that.
1932.
For the people that are confused, emus are a native a native species to the country. So I know exactly what an emu is, and yes, they are a tenacious bird, and they do take a bit to kill. So yeah, I can see but I mean, we've had a few rebellion attempts here. I mean, we had the Eureka Stockade, which was crushed mercilessly because most of the British officers that came here were sent to the Australian colonies for losing the Revolutionary War that gave birth to the United States. So as a punishment posting, they couldn't send them to Alaska like should have happened to Vindman after the way he screwed over President Trump.
Right.
They sent them to the colony of the Australian colonies as a punishment, and then when rebellion cropped up, it was a case of there's nowhere worse than here to send us. So we're going to crush this mercilessly. So you had the Eureka Stockade.
And that was 1850s. That was in the 1850s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where there was corruption going on between the constabulary and the military over who had the right to issue licenses on the gold fields. The military said it was them, and they didn't recognize the constabulary's license. The constabulary, and it was like every other day. Monday, military would turn up. Tuesday, the constabulary would turn up. They'd rip up the licenses that were paid for by the miners. That's not valid. You can't have that. Now pay the 20 shillings or whatever it was. And this went on, and eventually a bunch of miners got jack of it, grabbed their brown besses and blockaded themselves in, and it was mercilessly crushed. You had the Rum Rebellion under when Governor Bligh, yes, the same Bligh that was put off the bounty.
Yep.
And basically the military was running all of the distilleries to make rum, and when people started making their own, a little bit of moonshine and action going on, they came down on that rather mercilessly. And then you also had a relative of mine who was most notably or most famously outside of the country for being the bushranger with the metal bucket on his head, Ned Kelly.
Oh, the infamous outlaw Ned Kelly, yes.
He had the audacity he managed to get an illegal copy of the U.S. Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, and had the audacity to change its verbiage a little bit, but try and create an independence, a Declaration of Independence for the Republic of Victoria.
Oh, that's not.
And for that, he was hunted down, and history records him as being the butcher that history remembers him for.
Jack, tell us about your PM right now. Your current PM is this dude named Scott Morrison. Guy's 52 years old. He's in the, what did you call it? The Liberal Party. So that the Liberal Party, as you describe it, is the most conservative party available to you guys right now. Is he up for re-election? Is there anyone moving against Scott Morrison? Does it look like he's going to get reelected? Are you guys going to stay with him? Are you guys going to move to the right? Are you guys going to move harder left? What do you think you see for Australia?
Well, see, the problem with the Prime Minister here is to be Prime Minister and essentially head of the country, you just have to be the senior-most member of the political party that has the most number of seats in what would be the equivalent of the Congress.
Right.
So because the Liberal Party has the balance of power in the House of Representatives, they get to elect who is Prime Minister. It has nothing to do with the people at all. And if the party doesn't believe that person will bring them to a win in the election, they'll just vote him and change another one. I mean, Scott Morrison has been the longest-running Prime Minister we've had for probably a decade, because it's a case, for many years it's been, okay, who's the Prime Minister this week? It was like every other week, they'd say somebody would say some stupid shit, or some skeleton would fall out of the closet, I'm ashamed of my past actions, that I did when I was a prepubescent teenager. I'm going to quit, retire from public life and so on, and they'll change it. Or, some other controversy like, sleeping with an intern, or being caught with little boys and what have you. And all this was sort of going on. And in the years that I've been bouncing backwards and forwards between Texas and here, it was like, hang on. Who's the Prime Minister now? I thought such and such was. I said, oh, no, we've had 3 since then. What? I've been gone 6 fucking months. What's happened?
Okay, folks, we're talking to Jack Alexander of the Jack Alexander Experiment. As you can hear in the background, semi-lubricated, but not quite enough yet, is Sackhead Sean. A little bit?
Just a little bit.
All right. On the other area, we're going to take a couple of second break just to let everybody know where we are. We're not going to take a full break, because then I want to change into an arrest that occurred this past week. So just want to let you know, folks.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you're listening
to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show here on the SHR Media Network. Jump into our sumptuous and palatial chat room right now at shrmedia.com.
Call us when the phone lines are open. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California and working without a net. You're in the Saloon.
And we are in the final half hour of the show with Jack Alexander and also with Sackhead Sean, who is here tonight. I want to go into an arrest, and something occurred recently. Sean and I talked a bit about this, but now that Jack is here, I'd like to get his take on this. An arrest, an incarceration.
Ghislane Maxwell is ready to talk. According to reports, Jeffrey Epstein's accomplice is set to cooperate with the FBI after being arrested yesterday. And experts say Maxwell has every incentive to name names. Ooh. Nancy Grace thinks it could mean bad news for many powerful men, including Prince Andrews.
All they've got to do is keep her alive, all right?
That's not easy.
Don't let her commit suicide. Don't let her be killed.
That ain't
keep her alive, because I guarantee you right now, there are a lot of powerful people, men, in the U.S. and Britain who are quaking in their boots about what Ghislane Maxwell may say about them, all the way from Wall Street to Washington.
Let's just stop right there, because this leads to some really wonderful and interesting observations. So do any of you guys have any... I know this is a loaded question. Do any of you guys have any thoughts about this?
I will let Jack go first, seeing how he's the guest who's further away, and it takes his voice longer to get here.
It does, Jack. Throw your voice, sir. Go ahead, pitch it. By the way, Jack he's a shapeshifter and a time traveler. Because it's Thursday here, it's already Friday in Australia.
Yeah. And tomorrow he's a woman, like you said, shape-shifting.
Yeah. That's why I like getting Jack, because I get tomorrows news today. Jack, go ahead.
And the lottery numbers are.
Oh, folks, pull out your pen. Because he already has the numbers.
I've already lost $20 to the new county sheriff in Clay County, Texas, over Ghislane Maxwell. I said that I bet him that she would be dead by this past Monday. So yeah, I'm already in debt to the new county sheriff.
I have a theory. I'll touch on that one.
I would have thought that. Yeah, I would have thought that she would have already managed to hang herself by shooting herself in the back of
the head. Yeah, suicide by a double tap to the chest happens all the time. So here's the thing, and I thought about this long and hard, and I'm not joking about this. I am more worried for the well-being of Attorney General Barr to have a suspicious heart attack, much like Antonin Scalia, than I am about Ghislane Maxwell, and here's why: the amount of stress that Epstein dying put on those around him, and how close people were going. And you got to remember, there's a DA, the same one who's going after Trump's tax numbers right now, who declassified him as a sexual predator in New York. His tendrils go long and far and deep, but because he, quote unquote, killed himself, which he did not, if it happens with her again, you are going to have an attorney general who is probably going to go apeshit with an investigation and maybe start releasing things that weren't going to be released until she spoke. I suspect she will live, but finding somebody close to the case or something like that, having them perish, it would not shock me.
Here's another interesting point. I found a story that says something similar to, yes, Bill Barr, when that occurred, Bill Barr did, in fact, go apeshit
Mm-hmm.
when Jeffrey Epstein was accessed. I also found an article from the UK, Daily Mail, where I find a lot of my cool stuff that won't get printed here in the U.S. for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And I'm not about conspiracy theories, but my belief in coincidence is just about entirely done and gone. Here's an article that I found from, well, two articles. One I found, and I'm just going to throw this out there and let the two of you respond.
Okay.
One of them I found from the Telegraph, the UK Telegraph, which says that a person whose name was John Roberts was on one of the aircraft. I'll throw that out for a second. Wait until I get through this second one. The second one, now, I'm looking at this article right now. This is from the UK Daily Mail. Bill Gates flew with Jeffrey Epstein on the Lolita Express in 2013. He's the guy whose charity aims, if you remember, folks, to empower young girls
to entrepreneurship, correct?
To entrepreneurship.
Right.
Bill Gates flew from Teterboro Airport in New Jersey to Palm Beach, March 1st, 2013, with Epstein. A representative for Gates Humanitarian Foundation denied Epstein ever worked for billionaire founder of Microsoft, but no one wanted to comment on the 2013 flight.
Well, and I believe they've come out afterwards and said, oh, yeah, you know what? He did, in fact, do it. And I may be wrong. There's an update to that article that where they said, oh, he may have been on the plane, but he doesn't remember being on the plane, and he was taking a lot of trips. And, you know, I hate to say it, and Jack, I'm going to jump in if you don't mind.
Go for
it. Jack minds.
Being on the plane itself, to me, isn't necessarily a conviction. Going to the island where you're out of international, or you're into international waters, there's no actual law, things that can happen there that can't happen here legally, that's always the concern for me. And that's not to say that nothing happened on the flight at 30,000 feet between New York and Miami. I don't know that. But I know that there's less likely something to happen just as far as grooming and all the other stuff that versus people like, I don't know, former President Clinton that has spent time on the island.
Well, there's a painting of President Clinton
and Epstein
in a blue dress.
Yes, that was his. That was Epstein loved to have that. It was in his house, right?
Yes, yes.
And apparently Clinton thought it was funny, from what people have said. I was,
and
not
then of
there.
course there's the you know what? I may actually have this photograph. Let me make this before I show the photograph, and I will show it over the camera here in a second. If I could mention this, nobody was closer to Jeffrey Epstein than Ghislane Maxwell.
Yes.
This UK chick who is part of the elite of the elite.
She was hiding in New Hampshire.
Yeah, what the hell? 125 acres in a home in New Hampshire, and you guys didn't know where the hell she was. Okay, so there's information, because now I'm looking at an article. What is this from? New York Post. And in this article from the New York Post, there's a guy, a friend, a TV host named Christopher Mason, who says that he thinks she has access to videotapes and digital content from all of Epstein's properties, and the footage has gone missing. I'm sure she has access to the videos. A lot of powerful people will be more than a little worried, but you can't tell me, you cannot convince me that there isn't somebody somewhere that has a backup or a series of backup copies of all of that, because the FBI, for one thing, took an assload of material out of his house in New York City.
Well, I was just going to say, too, she may have already turned those copies over.
We don't know. That's exactly right. We have no idea.
I know the arrest was publicized, but on some level, she had to know it was coming, and her defense was ready. She's a lot of money. She's got lawyers. She's got big money, and she knew once Epstein was arrested and killed himself that she was next. And somebody as shrewd as she is, somebody who as calculated and cold as she is, you better believe had something ready to defend herself.
I'm looking at this article, and they're naming names. From New York Post, it says, at the top of the list are the usual scandal magnates. These are the people that need to worry. Prince Andrew.
Damn British.
Yeah, imagine that.
You can't trust the crown.
I know. Bill Clinton.
Damn asshole.
Alan Dershowitz.
Yeah.
Billionaire hedge fund owner Glenn Dubin. Let's see.
Dubin.
His wife, Eva Anderson Dubin. They founded the Dubin Breast Center for the Tech Cancer Institute of Mount Sinai. They go down to, a whole bunch of people that were the... By the way, folks, if you have not seen, there's a Netflix... Sean, have you seen it, the Netflix...
I haven't seen the
series about Jeffrey Epstein.
I have not seen it.
You need to go see it. All of this is so incredibly warped. When you see the insides, when you know the full story, the people that have interacted, the trips that were taken, the money that he has, the associations that he built, how basically he paid off the Palm Beach department the first time around.
The DA's office.
And the DA's office. But he actually made thousands of dollars donation to the Palm Beach Police Department. That series, one of the two series that I saw, was co-produced or produced by James Patterson, the author. James Patterson, on this little strand in Florida, where all these people have their massive homes, co-produced this series and essentially said that everyone knew what was going on. Everybody believed they knew what was going on. Nobody wanted to say anything about it. He was in the right amount of people. They just figured that that's what these folks do, let them be. And a lot of the people that were saying that were partaking of all of it themselves willingly. This list of potential exposures has to be hundreds of people long.
Well, and you see this on a regular basis, right? You have hangers-on, people that want to just siphon onto him for the money. You have people that are actually pedophiles that are just want to be around it and have money. Everybody has their different reasons. I think what's shocking with Ghislane Maxwell is, and I think what'll shock the conscience of a lot of people as this comes out, and you start to hear more and more about her hand in this, is that she's a woman. I think by and large, most people expect it from a male with a lot of money, power, start, banging 17-year-old girls. Like, it sucks, it's horrible, and it's terrible, but it's not as shocking to the conscience because it's happened a lot, right? Whether it should or it shouldn't. With a female who was essentially recruiting and grooming and then encouraging all of these things with these young women, I think that shocks the conscience more because it, by and large, even though we've had an influx of females being arrested for rape, mostly teachers in this country lately, it definitely is still more of a taboo, so to speak, to the conscience. And I don't want to Bigfoot the whole thing. I'm sure Jack has plenty to say.
I wasn't so surprised about Ghislane Maxwell.
Okay.
Mostly because I see what goes on with the sex industry here in Australia, and probably 90% of brothels in Australia or escort services are run by women. They are out there actively recruiting. There's one high-priced escort company I am aware of that operates in Melbourne is actively trolling college newsletters, community colleges and so on, to try and get as younger looking girls as possible to work for that company. So it's not just Anglos. I'm seeing it within the Vietnamese community. I'm seeing it in the Lebanese communities here, right across the board. So the fact that Ghislane Maxwell was running this really doesn't surprise me. And these women will tell you, well, young women trust, because it's a woman. There's a trust thing there.
Yeah,
it makes a woman it's easier for a woman to recruit young girls into all of this because they can play the mother figure.
Mm-hmm.
And promise all sorts of things, and girls will just, young naive girls will just naturally believe that more from a woman than they will from a man. So that doesn't surprise me, and it also doesn't surprise me that she'll have a shit ton of videos around lying as well.
Right.
But there are several prominent people within the Australian government, whether they be former or current members. I mean, one of the names of people that went to Pedophile Island is the first female Prime Minister of Australia, Julia Gillard.
Really?
She's in the little black book as someone that has been there, and she's the Labor Party, which is sort of more left. Mostly, she grew up to be in the Labor Party. You mostly came through the trade union movement, the Labor union movement. But I mean, Bronwyn Bishop is another female Australian government, but she's Liberal Party. And she's listed as being there.
Here's the top 10. What I'd like to do is hit 2 more points and then wrap up the show tonight with November. I have the top 10 list from NewYorkPost.com. Number 1, Prince Andrew. Number 2, didn't see this coming, Ehud Barak, former Israeli Prime Minister. 3, Bill Clinton. 4, Harvard President Larry Summers. 5, Alan Dershowitz. 6, retail tycoon Leslie Wexner. Billionaire hedge fund Glenn Dubin. Former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson. Former Maine Senator George Mitchell. Former Epstein employee Claire Hazel. I find that very, very interesting. But here's also the point with regard to women. What Ghislane Maxwell has done is essentially a smaller family unit on steroids. Perhaps some people, if I were her defense attorney, Sean, what I'd do is I'd try to say that over the years she was Stockholmed. Mm-hmm. And most everybody knows what that is. Mm-hmm. But she's nothing more than a really close, tight family unit on steroids. And what I mean by that, I was a child abuse detective. I did that for 2.5, almost 3 years before I went someplace else. In any event, doing that, what you discover is in the family unit, the mother is the enabler. Yes. The father primarily, although there was one case that I had where the roles were reversed. Always an exception. But the mother is an enabler and is the one that brushes things off for the child. And the reason that she does that, just like Ghislane Maxwell, is she had life by the balls. Mm-hmm. You're flying around on private jets. You're the squeeze of Jeffrey Epstein. You're doing whatever it is that he wants. Who knows what kind of sexual satisfaction she got from all the other persons that were involved there, to include, obviously, if you watch these series, females as well. So that would also buttress the female aspect
she was
of it
alleged
as well.
To have slept with some of these women.
So exactly the point. So she is that situation on steroids. So final question about this to the two of you guys, Jack and Sean. Odds on her making it to court?
Oh, I think it's high.
I think it's really high this time. Jack?
Yeah, actually, if she's lasted this long, then I think there's a lot of people worried that if she does mysteriously die of a heart attack, that there's a lot of videos that's going to get sent to the media. So maybe she has that protection for now.
Yeah, for now. I'll take for now.
Let's see. What do we got? 10 more minutes. This is kind of how I'd like to wrap things up. And Sean and I talked about this just before we started the show. People are getting really depressed. And there was a gentleman who's been on the show before who sent me a text that indicated essentially that he's really starting to lose faith in President Trump. And he and I had a discussion back and forth, which went something similar to, you know what, no matter what happens, no matter who wins, no matter who loses, this country is in for an ass kicking. And it's in for a couple of miles of really bad, rough road, whether Biden wins or whether Trump wins, with a major, major caveat. And this is what I'd like, Sean, you to weigh in. We both now are of the opinion, as I indicated earlier, the left can't stop now.
No.
They don't have the capacity to stop doing what they're doing. The first rule of holes. Now, for a while, people were thinking, they may have, some of these assholes even think that some of this shit is cute. You know, the mayor of Seattle, the year of love, or whatever.
Look at them,
whatever the hell it was. Yeah, until they show up
defecate on
her
that house.
Damn doorstep, then shit changed. It's funny how that works out.
Well, it's the Frankenstein theory, right? When you get attacked by your own monster.
Well, it's like I call it the lizard dragon theory, and the BZ axiom is: you get a little lizard, you pet it, and you feed it. And it grows, and it grows, and grows. And pretty soon that little lizard turns into a dragon, and it kills you and burns you alive. But the only person responsible for doing that was you, because you fed the fucking dragon.
Well, and here's how this is going to go, and I predict this. Look, I said earlier, they didn't think Joe was going to lose his faculties as quick as he did. I think that they're
when you
stuck
said
with that.
I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. I think they knew he probably wasn't as on point as he once was, but, you know, let's face it, their whole thing is to get Joe in for a year or two, and the super duper socialist liberal president, vice president Joe will say, oh, due to my health, I have to resign, and then this person's going to take over. I think that was always the plan. So you'd get an Elizabeth Warren or something like that. But I think as we go further down this road and just talking to everyday people more and more, the average American voter, who is a tax-paying, hard-working individual who believes in the rule of law and sees through a lot of the BS of the left, which is more and more, I think is going to come out by and large, not only as the silent majority in this country in November, but I think they're going to come out more vocal as we get closer to November. I think people are getting fed up with not being able to even go to a store or whatever, not being able to wear a T-shirt with an American flag on it, blah, 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 blah. And I think that it's getting to that tipping point. The left cannot control the monster that they've made that's out there and looting and vandalizing, and they had hoped that it would just be a couple weeks and go away, and it's not going away. And what it's doing is being a gigantic pain in the ass for the Democrats to own and manage.
Well, just when we also... Jack, how many months ago was it, maybe a year, if that, when people were going, you know, if they're taking down some of these Confederate statues, you know, they're going to want to go take down George Washington, and they're going to want to go blow up Mount Rushmore. And that's exactly what they're saying now. The left lacks the capacity to not continue on this road. And I think this is going to erupt in an expression November 3rd of people saying something similar to, you know what? I've put up with all this bullshit for a year or more. And in this voting booth, on this ballot, this is my fuck you to all the rest of you assholes who have caused me this much pain and taken this country from me.
So,
and it's not just limited to the United States either. We've had several violent incidences in Australia, including someone getting stabbed in Melbourne by a white person getting stabbed in Melbourne by a black person, and they were citing justice for George Floyd in Australia.
Right? Yeah, that's just well.
And, you know, and the way the media is put here, they're using that as an excuse to try and you know, blame Donald Trump for this. For, you know, I don't know how they can make it stick, But, they're blaming Donald Trump for the injustice that saw the death of George Floyd.
Right.
To bring external pressure to bear. Once again, Democrats are colluding with other foreign actors.
Yep.
To try and destroy Donald Trump. And, but I'm not so much worried about Donald Trump losing this election. I'm more worried about who the successor is going to be for the 2024 election. And please, God, don't let it be Kanye West.
Oh, okay. Well, 2
let's
points.
talk about Kanye really quick.
2 points. This is weird. I don't know. Maybe you guys have heard something in passing. All I heard is people are saying Tucker Carlson 2024. I haven't heard anything more about that.
I don't think
that's just something that I mentioned in passing. But since you brought up Kanye West, anybody have a remembrance of the big-ass ghost of elections past? Who was that, Sean?
Ross Perot.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if Kanye gets 1 million people to vote for him, which is not impossible.
No.
Not impossible. That alone, if it's 1 million votes in the right places and the right districts, could absolutely make this a ridiculous landslide, worse than last election.
Okay, now, let me throw this open to both of you guys. Because depending on who you listen to, what network, and whose show, which is everything, I've heard everything from, Kanye West is going to give Trump a big old boost. I've also heard people say Kanye West is going to give Biden such a massive, massive boost, and Trump is down because all the people that were kind of on the cusp for Trump, and because of Kanye West's issue with COVID now. He liked Trump before. Now he doesn't like him anymore. Now those people are going to roll over for Kanye West.
No, I think he's going to split Democrats straight up. I think most people who would follow and listen to Kanye would be more of your liberal voter, young liberal voter. I don't think that anybody who was a Trump supporter is going to be influenced by Kanye West.
Jack?
And not only that, I tend to agree with Sean that it's going to be more of a younger voter that's going to go for Kanye. But he's already playing the entitlement card. There was a tweet that I had in my prep for today's show that I wound up not covering. He's already taken to Twitter asking for Trump and Biden to drop out because he feels entitled to being president. He's already playing the race entitlement card in all of this.
Okay.
If it doesn't tell you who Kanye West is and that he's all about whatever Kanye West wants, and I said this when Trump had him at the White House, I was never impressed with Kanye West. All right, whatever. He was a cute news story and likened the president, and I think the president, look, if there's one thing you can say about Trump is he brings a lot of people in and talks to him even when he doesn't agree with them. So that didn't shock me that he brought him in. But I know Kanye is all about Kanye.
That's a clusterfuck storm if ever I heard one.
Oh, yeah.
I
love the idea, though, that you know what? It would be great if Biden did. Well, we're going to support Black Lives Matter, so I should step out of the way for Kanye, and that way I'll be a better president afterwards. That's pretty much what Biden would.
You know who, throughout all of this, I have to really despise? And I said, I've done a couple of memes on this, so yeah, okay, guilty. Wait a minute, where's my camera? There we are. I've put a couple of memes of this on certain social media sites. A year ago, I used to make fun of Joe Biden. Except for those two memes, I don't make fun of him anymore.
Yeah.
The only rancor I hold now is for his wife, Jill.
Mm-hmm. She's letting it happen.
I can't to a degree fault Biden's handlers because that's their job to pull that kind of crap. But to have a wife allow her husband to be used like a soiled Kotex, because you know he's going to get kicked to the curb real soon.
Oh, yeah.
And to prop him up and to let him go through all of that. Now, maybe maybe 9 months or a year ago, I might not have said that. But she knows for a fact he's it. He's been through the entire vetting process.
Mm-hmm.
And she still she will let anything happen to him now.
I will let my last comment go on this, if that's okay with you. First and foremost, I think that, she's got problems because she's allowing this to happen. And I think on some level he has to know he doesn't have his A game. Even if he doesn't know who's bringing him a soup and when. That's number one. Number two, I am still not completely convinced that come late September, he has this epiphany about his health, and you see one of the other people all of a sudden who will automatically get whatever old white vote Joe will get and lock them into place.
Hillary.
I don't think Hillary. I think you'll see somebody like an Elizabeth Warren.
See, I knew that once you said that, I knew that Jack would say what Jack did. Jack, don't disappoint us. We're going to go out on your comment.
I got 3 words when it comes to Joe Biden in this, and that's follow the money.
Yeah.
Does Jill Biden stand to make a shit ton of money for allowing this to happen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because, that's the only... with a lot of elder abuse, there's either money involved, they're stealing their welfare checks and so on, or it's at the end of this, she's going to when he doesn't get it, divorce him and just bolt,
or wait for him to die.
Leave him in a nursing home. So, Shady Pines nursing home.
With his shotgun and his Corvette.
Yep. Where's my aviators? I agree with Jack. I think she'll just wait for him to die, and then you'll see her with her own political career in about 10 years.
That long?
Maybe not even that long.
No.
Not even that long.
But that's why she won't divorce him first.
She'll go straight. She'll go if they wait till he dies. Soon as he's dead. Oh, I'm following in my husband's legacy.
Yep.
Much to which Sonny Bono's wife.
Yeah, sure.
In California after he headbutted that tree.
Yeah. Lost a skiing match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to play this just for a second.
I have 2 shotguns in my home. They're locked in a safe. There's a metal gun case. We live in an area that's wooded, somewhat secluded. And I said, Jill, if there's ever a problem, just walk out on the balcony and fire 2 blasts outside the house. Buy a shotgun. Buy a shotgun. You don't need a machine gun. You don't need 30 rounds. Buy a shotgun. Buy a double barrel shotgun.
No, you don't need a flamethrower, and you don't need a tank, and you don't need an AR-15 to scare those thugs away. No, and I don't need a grenade launcher. I don't need an F-15. There's just one thing I need to do, and they'll stay away from me. Fire 2 blasts outside the house.
So great.
Buy a shotgun. Buy a shotgun. Buy a shotgun. Yeah, buy a shotgun, baby. You don't need a machine gun. You don't need 30 rounds. Buy a shotgun. Buy a shotgun.
Fire 2 blasts outside the house.
Buy a shotgun. Buy a shotgun.
This is also the same guy who believed it should be illegal for you to burn or otherwise desecrate the flag. People forget that about Joe.
I know.
He proposed a law about it.
I know. Poor Joe.
Well, poor Joe.
Poor Jill. Poor Joe. Poor Joe and Jill. Jack, before we leave, I want to make sure that people know that you have a radio show and that people can watch it. Where can they watch and listen to your show, Jack Alexander?
Well, you can catch it on Facebook, YouTube, and Magabook as well. I'm now also posting links on Parler as well. to that. So just do a search for the Jack Alexander Experiment on all of those. They can check out my website, jackalexanderexperiment.com. And hopefully at the end of the month, I'll be taking pre-orders for my book.
Ooh, can we ask you the nature of it?
The nature of the book, it's part cookbook and it is part some of the philosophies that have helped get me through life.
Nice.
Okay. All right. It's like how to cook either Martian or squab.
Or Vegemite.
I can guarantee you there's no recipes that contain Vegemite in it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kangaroo, on the other hand, yes. Emu, maybe.
Isn't kangaroo kind of stringy?
Only if you overcook it. But yeah, Philosophy and Flavor by Jack Alexander I should be looking at taking pre-orders towards the end of the month. I'm hoping I'll have the ebook drop late August, maybe into September.
God, Sean, why don't you write a book?
Yeah, okay. I have time for that.
Sure you do.
Yeah,
write a book.
What would I write a book about?
Number 1, buy a shotgun. Number 2, write a book.
I have a shotgun, a couple. What would I write a book about?
Buying a shotgun.
I do a cookbook, but I don't write anything I cook down. So, you can find me at any bar on a fairly regular basis.
That's right.
I do have a new bar stool coming out probably sometime in August that I intend to occupy. The e-bar stool will not be dropping, unlike Jack's book.
Okay.
So I don't have that going for me. And, occasionally you can find me on the couch.
Okay, and I'm BZ, the bloviating Zeppelin. You can customarily find me here in the saloon. Also, I ask you one final favor for the weekend. Folks, if you come into the saloon and you find me passed out on a stool and my head is resting there on the bar top, do me a favor. Grab a big hunk of my hair, pull me up, and just get a tweezers and pull the splinters out of my forehead, would you please? Because that's kind of irritating when they scrape across the pillow and people pour me into the bed at the end of a really long night of Kettle One vodka. Jack Alexander, thank you ever so kindly for being here tonight, sir.
Not a problem, mate. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Jack.
All right. Good day, mate. Have a great time. That was Jack. And now I have to tell you this. Now it's time. No, it's not that now. We're going to actually play this. I get excoriated on Facebook for playing this.
Oh, they do the mute?
Yeah. They killed me for this. Yeah. This is my outro song for 3 years.
Yeah, but it's somebody still has that.
And so Vera Lynn dies a month ago, and they don't like this.
Yep.
What the hell?
It's
a great song. It's from World War II. And the reason I like this one is you'll notice that I have the intro from Peter Sellers. In fear, I can vote. That's from Dr. Strangelove.
Such a great
And
great
this
movie.
isn't the regular Vera Lynn cut from her albums. This is the one with the chorus that sings specifically just for this movie.
Oh, no way.
That's why I put it in here. Except for the movie, I cannot find any Vera Lynn singing with a chorus like this. And then here comes the chorus. I mean, maybe it exists somewhere else. I haven't found it. Well, folks, I'm going to be back next Tuesday night. Don't know with whom. Everybody, from Sackhead Sean and me, God bless, take care, be safe, have a great weekend.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night.
Good night, Jim Bob. Go to sleep.
Good night, and good luck.